Hi all, welcome to Be Better Daily podcast. Just wanted to do a quick intro. I've got a awesome podcast coming up with Jaggar. Okay, he was a young Australian boxing champion in the amateurs, and he's got a cool story or an interesting story on how he grew up in Sydney, was unfortunately removed from his home, thrown into foster care. He did the runner from foster care. Um, he found boxing at a young age when his mother forced him into it, and basically never looked back. And he talks about how boxing saved his life, um, how he overcome challenges in between, obviously moving and living in different places, and um, all of that. And yeah, I think it's something. If that interests you, the hero's journey, the ability to overcome the odds that he faced when he was younger, uh, to to be a champion and achieve what he wanted to achieve, I think is a really inspiring story. So I've just got a little quote here. Uh, Being removed from my family and growing up the way I did wasn't traumatic for me. I didn't know anything different. So there's a little insight. Um, Feel free to tune in. Uh, I always start pretty slow, but it warms up as we go along. So I hope you enjoy. And Jaggar's one hell of a bloke. Cheers.
Okay, so I think we're on, brother.
We're on.
Um, thanks for coming on the Be Better Daily podcast, mate. Um, this is where we just have a good yarn, get to know some different people, and talk about what makes them tick and how they've sort of gotten through things, and if there's anything that can help other people along the way and along their own personal journey. Hopefully, they can pick up some things from that. Other than that, just love to learn a bit more about yourself, Jagger. So I've got Jagger with us today, and I don't know a hell of a lot about you, mate.
Mhm.
I met you once or twice at Mineral Resources, and I know that you're a boxer and you're quite well known in Perth, in the boxing realm. Um, but other than that, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a history on who Jagger is?
First and foremost, yeah, thanks for having me on. Pumped to be able to reach a different crowd of people and yeah, share some stories and yeah, yeah. What? Well, for those who don't know me, yeah, a lot of the people that do know me is through boxing and through being a personal trainer and things like that. But I feel like that is just a small part of who I am now. And
Yeah,
boxing has been definitely a sport and an outlet for me since I was like 8 years old to show up somewhere every single day. And I think it's important to be able to show up somewhere every single day. And even if we'll take a step back, yeah, what what boxing alone brung for me was it was just a kid who wasn't really good at sports, wasn't really good in an all boys environment. Some people would have called me somewhat feminine, and I remember when my mum's
yeah, okay,
older friends would call me like gay or a little bit queer, lightheartedly though, not no
yeah, yeah,
offense taken. Yeah, and
yeah,
I definitely had more girl friends than I had boy like friends growing up, which
good
is
on you.
yeah. And yeah, boxing. I remember the very first time I rocked up to something like that. It was a PCYC gym in the western suburbs, and PCYC is like a youth center. For those who
Yeah,
don't know what that is, yeah, so it's like a youth center, and it's where you'd pay like $5 a week, and you'd just show up, and the boxing coach would put you through something. The first
sick.
hour, the first hour session I ever went to, it was 15 minutes of skipping, which I couldn't
Yeah,
skip. It was
yeah,
15 minutes of shadow boxing, which I didn't know how to throw a punch, 15 minutes of bag work, and then 10 minutes of core, right? But I walked
okay.
into this place and it smelt like wet towels, wet dogs, and it was just this place of fucking hell. this is hectic. And
Yeah.
the last 10 minutes, the coach goes, have you boys got mouth guards? I went, what's a mouth guard? He's like, jump in. And it was me and my mate, and there was 14 ounce gloves on with no mouth guard, and just punched the living fuck out of me. And I
Yeah,
was
right.
like, whoa. And that was my first day. And
That's the
the
first
but
day.
that was it.
That sounds pretty
Yeah,
old school, mate.
yeah. And that day, I almost didn't go. And the trajectory of what that done for me in my life is wild. And a nice little message in that is if you get flogged on the
Yeah.
first day, if you get absolutely shit punched out of you, it can only get better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you get kicked, get down and get back up. But yeah, that
Yeah.
boxing trajectory from that day took me from 12 years old to 17, and yeah, where I was, yeah,
Interesting.
had
I wanna sit on that a little bit. So you
gone.
went into PCYC. What made you go in there?
I actually come home from hanging out with some mates one day, and I was a little bit busted up. I was about 8, and my mum goes, "What's going on with you?" And fell over. She's like, "What happened?" I said, "Yeah, I got bashed." She goes, "Get in the
Yeah.
car," and yeah, she took me down to at PCYC. Yeah, it was just literally like in Western Sydney. Um,
Okay.
it's quite a I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot of angry kids, eh? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So is this
I couldn't fight to
this is
save
at eight
myself.
years old,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
um did this altercation happen at school, or is this out on the streets, or what?
Out on the street. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were
So
we doing?
I
Just chilling out at the skate park or something, or
yeah, I can't even remember how it happened. I just remember getting chased down because I couldn't run
yeah.
fast either. I
Yeah.
just remember getting chased down, and then yeah, he just grabbed me and boom, and then it was just like, whoa, holy shit! Like I remember just going home rattled. I was like, holy shit! And
Yeah.
yeah, my mum was very very respected and very
Yeah.
feared. So was I of her. So I walked in just like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
no, like I'm gonna probably cop a flogging off my mum now as well.
Get in so much trouble.
And yeah, she's just like, you got to learn to stick up for yourself if you can't run fast. So yeah,
And
that's what happened.
did your mum send you down there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
she she took me. She took me down there. So, she was very smart in the realm
That's
of
cool.
like I knew if she took me down there by myself, I wouldn't have went. So she went and picked my mate up. So it was me and my best mate at the time. We
Hmm.
went down together and would go down I think it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday from then on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Awesome.
when I started to be able to yeah, be around boy group environments a little bit more comfortably, and I felt a little bit more because like I grew up only with my mum for a long period of time,
Hmm.
and even though my mum
Just
was
you
like
and your mum?
yeah, but
Yeah.
my mum's a man, like yeah, she's just such like this, the aura around her was so like I don't even know if stoic's the word. It was just this
Yeah.
aura about her. So like yeah, it almost shrink me a little bit. I didn't have chance to be a boy or be a kid too much because I had to like I wasn't allowed to sit on my bed after it was made and things like that. It was yeah, she was very like particular, and
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
things weren't the way she wanted them to be, it was yeah. So some like looking back now, as I've developed a little bit of a brain, she shrunk me a little bit, but yeah, and I don't even think it was malice. It's just who she is, and like, and
Yeah.
it's not even. I
Yeah.
don't even have anything against her. People blame their parents for a lot of
Mm.
things, but I think if you look
Mm.
inwards, that everyone has their own story, and that my mum's story
Yeah.
was a lot more colourful than what mine was. So I can never blame
Yeah.
her for what was written for her.
Absolutely, man. Like
Mm,
it, they only did what they knew how to with the tools that they had at the time,
100%,
right? Yeah.
100%.
And you hear people who have had everything that will complain about their parents because they got given everything. So
Yeah,
how were they ever able to develop responsibility because they were given everything? and vice
Yeah.
versa. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely, you can look at it different ways. But so what were things like? So you grew up mainly in Sydney.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
is that correct?
I grew up in Sydney until I was about 11, and
Yeah,
then yeah, there was quite an extravagant lifestyle change.
yeah.
Do you want to dive into that a little
And
bit?
then you came over to Perth after
By
that.
by myself. I moved over to Perth when I was 19 by myself.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I just want to know, because obviously I'm from New Zealand and I'm actually from like multiple different small towns in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Around that time, so you were talking about 8 years old, you were in the PCYC, etc.
Hmm.
What was
Yeah.
things like growing up for you as a kid? Did you guys used to play cricket on the streets, and were you guys out late at night and all that sort of stuff, or did you have to be home at a certain time and do this and do that?
I definitely did not have a interactive childhood with when it comes to like play.
Mm-hmm.
I hung around like older kids, and I used to lie about
Yeah,
my age when I was younger so I can hang out with them. So like, let's say if I was 9, I would say I was 10. If I was 10, I would say I was 11. And the
yeah,
kids I was
yeah,
hanging out with were like 12 and 13, and like I would just do whatever they did. So there would be, I just remember this one particular night, we broke into like a public pool, and we took body wash down there and soaked everything up, and then just were jumping in the pool. Like, so
yeah,
yeah, I just knew no different. So I'd literally just
yeah,
do whatever they did. And then when I started to, um, like, yeah, by chance, like, because everyone, like in housing, like Prospect in Western Sydney, it's literally like a meteorite hit the ground, and there's just this whole of housing commission. It's all it
mm,
is. So it's just housing commission, like
yeah,
housing WA, especially where I am. There's like a housing commission house in every street, where we had like a whole suburb of it. So
yeah, okay,
uh, yeah, so that was
yeah,
and it's suburbs as well. Yeah. So when growing up in that area, that low economic area, everyone sort of grew up on the funness in crime, right? And I
mm-hmm,
knew everything was wrong. I was like, this is not right. And I was a very edgy kid, especially going home to my mum, knowing that I'd done something wrong. There's a good chance I got slapped around the face. So it would just be
yeah,
like this. Oh, I cannot. So I remember saying to myself one time, I was like, I got to go experiment with other kids. And I remember one day I just got on my bike and I rode for like 15, 20 minutes to go see a friend that I went to school with, just so I could be
mm-hmm,
somebody else. And I went and hung out with him for the day, and I had lunch with their family, and they took me in for dinner, and then we went to like this trampoline place, and I was like, whoa. So I'd made it my thing that I had to get away from those kids and go live life a little bit. And I remember like experiencing competitive edge, and like having that thing with your mates, like, oh, I'm better now, I'm better. And yeah, healthily, you know what I mean? Not
yeah,
who could
yeah,
do the
yeah,
most craziest shit, like knocking running on houses and stuff, like super young. Which does seems harmless, but it elevates, you know.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm.
yeah, wicked. So, um, what was sort of next for you? So you sort of grew up in this sort of rough sort of suburb.
Mm.
Um, Mum was sounded quite disciplined and had
Mm.
her ways that she wanted to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was next for you? So 8 years old, you went into PCYC. What's the next path?
Well, the next sort of step that you can go on with is that at 11 years old, my mum got raided, and for her lifestyle choices. And then when that happened, I got taken into
Yeah,
foster care.
okay.
I got taken into foster care. So
Yep.
when I got taken into foster care, it's quite a dramatic day. I remember I was staying with my cousin for a few days, and then I get home from my cousin's house. I get home from school and go to my cousin's house, and I walk in, and she's my cousin's like 30 at the time. She's just bawling her eyes out like on the floor, and I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Yeah, they're coming to
Mm-hmm.
get you." I was like, "Fuck!" And I already knew, because there was kids getting taken from my suburb every other week. You'd just be like, "Where's so and so?" Or they got taken from Department of
Yeah,
Community
okay.
Services. So Docs was Docs was very much, we knew who they were and where they were coming from. And so and I remember getting my cousin's house, and she says they're coming. I was like, just let me run. And she's like, no, because if you run, they said they'll take my kids as well. And I was like, fuck you. And I went to run, and she grabbed me and she just held me on the floor for about 20 minutes until they came. And
Oh, really?
People in suits come through. They open up the door. Police come in, and they grabbed me and my dog and took me to a short-term stay. And I'll never forget her name. Her name was Margaret. And she was actually really nice. She was actually a very nice lady. But they took me about half an hour from where I was in another, like the outer skirts of Sydney, in Windsor.
Yeah.
And I was ferocious when I got there. I smashed up the bedroom. I smashed up anything that I could, because they'd just taken me away. And I decided that I wasn't going to be someone who was just lost to the system. So I stayed with her for about 3 or 4 days. And then one day after school, I ran. And I ran from school, and I knew that I was about half an hour run from school to where my mum was living. Well, I used to live with my mum, but I knew my uncle was staying there, getting some of her things together because she was going to jail.
Okay.
And so I decided to run, and that half an hour run, I'd be sprinting back home, and every car that drove past, I'd hide in a bush, and I'd get back out and run and sprint and sprint and sprint and sprint. And then I got to my mum's house after about half an hour, and I walked in, and my uncle just saw me there. He's like, what the fuck's going on? I said, they're coming. And even though Western Sydney sounds hectic, the people have each other's back really hard, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I would jump a fence, and I would knock on the door, and I'd be like, hey. And they already knew, they're like, just stay here. So I'd stay there for 20 minutes. The docs would come knock on the door. I'd knock, and I'd so all afternoon I was just running through the neighbors' houses, and they kept me hidden. And and I'll forever thank them for that, because they just understood. No one freaked out and said, no, you can't be here. They were very it's a very community driven spot, Western Sydney, and everyone's in struggle, and everyone was happy to help that day. And then my uncle took me to the Central Coast, which is about an hour north of Sydney.
Right. So did you end up staying with your uncle?
I lived with my uncle for a few years as well. And so he took me in, and I started a new life in on the Central Coast.
Yeah, right. So how long? So hold on, you got.
I was 11 when that day happened in particular.
Yeah. So that day happened. They raided your mum's house. You were at your auntie's. They took you off to this other lady's place where you were supposed to stay. How long were you at that lady's place?
4 days.
4 days, and that's when you did the runner and came back to your uncle's place. Yeah.
Well, my uncle, who was staying at my mum's place, because I knew he was packing up her house.
Yeah, right. And so that's quite common there.
Well, it was in my time. It was like it. You just hear of, like, I remember hearing a story where there was 2 girls babysitting a baby, and docs come up to come and get the baby and saw the 2 girls there as well, not even a part of that family, and they took the 2 girls as well.
Right.
It was fucking disgusting.
Rough. Yeah.
If I'm honest, like, the system back in those days. And I remember the girl that her name was Shindu, my caseworker, and there's not many people. Hate's a strong word, and I don't believe it should be thrown around enough. It should not be thrown around at all. But that Shindu woman, she was quite a disgrace, because she didn't even have a kid. I remember asking her, I was like, do you have children? She's like, no. I was like, so how do you know how it feels to have children ripped from you? And she actually smirked at me. So if she ever gets to listen to this that time. So it's quite hectic, and but it's not anymore. It's actually changed. And there's another story in it as well. But now there has to be an investigation. There's procedures and plans, and because don't get me wrong, there's parents out there that probably, if you don't have your habits sorted, and you don't have an environment healthy for a baby, and you can't even look after yourself, sure, but there's actually people out there that are really having a crack, and
Yeah.
they have a baby or they have a child, and they're trying their best. And back in the day, they weren't given a chance, but now I feel like it's changed a lot. And yeah, so I
Well,
feel
we
like the
hope so.
system's a lot better. Yeah, I feel like the
Mm.
system's becoming a lot better. You know.
So you went, you ended up staying with your uncle. That's that whole scene you just painted. It's sort of quite a big shock, like quite traumatic.
Mm.
Where's Dad at this point? Has he ever been around, or what's the story there? If we can talk
Nah,
about that.
nah. Dad was never Dad was never around. Dad was a yeah. Like we're mates now, and like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he was out of my life for a long time. You know, we sort of rekindled through boxing. Funny enough,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, through boxing when I was 16,
Yep.
and
Yep.
yeah, like one day I feel like he'll be able to tell his story a bit better, but he doesn't like the shovel. He doesn't like me asking those deep questions. So I'll yeah,
Hmm. That's right, mate.
yeah.
So you ended up staying with your uncle. How long did you stay there, and what was that like for you? Because that's a new life, I imagine.
Yeah. I'm forever thankful for what they did for me that day, because I really feel like I would be lost in the system because I had nowhere else to go.
Hmm.
But from 11 to 14, I was with my auntie and uncle, and similar thing. You know, my auntie and uncle have got their own way of parenting, and since I've become a stepdad, I would never parent the way they did. And yeah, you know, mate, and the thing is as well though, like it's like when a kid does something. I remember when I'd do something when I was younger, and I'd ask, and you just get the comment, fucking figure it out.
Hmm.
And it's like, what do you mean? I don't even how? But you would just figure it out. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like there is an old school element to parenting that I do agree with, where yeah, if you explain too much things to kids, that you cook their heads anyway, and they don't need. I feel like
Mm.
they don't need to think that deeply. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah.
this, and this, and they'll figure out their own way of doing it. But yeah, like I had cousins. I had they put me in football. They let me go back to box. Well, not let me. Like they put me back in boxing.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and I did have yeah, a collaborative relationship with his cousins and that I never had. And I got to be around family members quite often. And
Hmm.
yeah, and the boxing on the Central Coast is where I'd met Stephen Kiley Mannix, who at 14 ended up becoming my immediate family. They were my foster parents.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they were the best. They were the best things that ever happened to me. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Wicked.
Yeah. They saved my life. Proper.
Yeah.
I was by the time I was 14, I was a very angry. Like I just didn't know how to regulate my emotions properly. I was very
Yeah.
fiery. I had no. Yeah, and I just remember that gym. It was a small little box gym that sat on the top of a fish and chip shop on the Central Coast.
Hmm.
And it oh fuck, I just never felt so at home there. It was yeah, it was. Give me a sec.
All good, brother. All good.
Fuck. Yeah, it just saved my life. So
Have you
yeah.
been? Have you been? Do you still go back to that gym, mate? Have you
I went
been
back
there
there.
since?
I went back there November last year, which was cool, just to see the
Cool.
new yeah, to see the new flavors in there, like all the new
Yeah.
young kids and they're having a crack, and to show them that yeah, it's to just stay true to your dreams. And yeah, because boxing was one of those things that, because I wanted to be so good at it and it wasn't athletically gifted as a young age, I would just get
Yeah.
fucking smoked every day. I was so retarded. Like, I reckon there was a time there where he would just go, mate, go in and have a crack.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Yeah.
tell me
Just do
anything
your own thing.
technically. I was just like Tasmanian devil. Like, I had the nickname Honey Badger for a bit because it was just get in there and just fuck shit up. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'd every time I'd walk into the door, I'd fall in love with it, and every time I'd walk out, I'd be heartbroken, and that was every day. And yeah, I loved it for that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked. So you're at this boxing gym and you met. Were you at this place where you met the guy that saved your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he
was
he
he was
he
he a
he ran
coach
the
at the
gym.
boxing gym? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wicked. And
He
so how did that sort of come to be?
Well, I when I was living with my auntie and uncle up on the Central Coast, I asked to go back to a boxing gym. A friend of mine was boxing locally, which was Central Coast Boxing.
Yeah.
And so I'd walked into the gym, and yeah, I just never left. I got right on with it was the first time I started going to boxing events as well. So they would be saying, oh, there's going to be a boxing event this weekend. A few of our fighters are going on. Who wants to come? So you just put your hand up, meet at the gym on a Saturday morning. We would all carpool,
Mm.
Sydney, Newcastle, different areas around the Sydney region and Hunter Valley region, in Newcastle. And so just being like 14, these first time going to these events, sort of like, yeah, it was so cool just being a part of a team, being a part of people who are like driven, and everyone had each other's backs, and yeah, just being in a dressing room and all these bits and
Yeah.
pieces. And over the course of like 12 short months, I've really developed quite a close relationship with the Mannix family who ran the gym.
Hmm.
And yeah, they just had my back so hard. And then once I had different troubles with where I was living with my family, they just said, come and live with us.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else you need to go. You can come and stay with us. And yeah, I'll never forget the day. Like I sort of went to the place. I had all my bags with me, and we went straight to Harvey Norman, and they got me a bedroom suite, and they just made me feel so at home. And yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. So you going through all of this and living where you lived and at to the stage that we're talking about now, um, did you like for dopamine, for comfort, for feeling good, did you end up turning to alcohol or drugs or anything like that, or did boxing keep you on the straight and narrow, or how was that
Yeah,
sort of
it's
for
a great
you?
question. It's a great question. So with like all through my teenage years up until I was 18, it was very much boxing, um, yeah, community, being better, all that stuff. Even before that, people ask me as well, we'll take it back a step. People ask me as well, like, it must be so traumatic for you, for what you went through as a
Mm,
kid. But what people have got to know is that I didn't know any different. You know what I mean? So
mm-hmm.
it's like, and like, I didn't
Yeah.
grow up to saying, this is bad, this is good, this. It just was.
Yeah.
So looking back now, fuck, it was hectic. I can't even believe I went through that. And I'm
Yeah.
so proud of who I am today. You know what I mean? Like, I've got
Awesome.
no one to blame. I've got no one to point fingers at. Everyone's got their story, and I am so stoked that I'm in a position to be able to share the positivity in what people feel like is traumatic. Like,
Yeah.
sure, I probably feel it a little bit today, and
Yep.
I've definitely got some things and issues that I got to work on each day. And
Mm,
but it always comes back to the things that built me, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
which we can get into. But
Yeah.
yeah, like up until I was 18, I had boxing and the community and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I turned 18, yeah, I found the bender, the old Larry
Right.
Ender. And I wasn't addicted to anything. I definitely
Yeah.
wasn't addicted to anything. But
Yeah.
they were some of the most fucking craziest years of my life. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yeah.
the reason why it brings a smile to my face is because it was so stupid. Oh my god, man, it was so dumb. And like, and the same thing though, like none of my mates at that time were dead shits. They all worked hard. They were either
Yeah.
concreters or roofers or
Yeah.
brickies or
Yeah.
landscapers, and worked like fuck. And then when they got
Yeah.
paid on a Thursday, they'd piss it all up the wall till Saturday and be
Yep.
broke
Yep.
again till next Thursday. And that's just how it was. You know, you're broke
That's the
Sunday,
tradie
Monday,
life, eh?
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, you're eating crackers and corn chips and fucking water. You know, so
Yeah,
and we done that and we partied hard
yeah,
and
sick.
but same thing, we had each other's backs. If
Yeah,
if I had $50 left and my mate asked me for 50, I would have given it to him because if it was vice versa, I would have got it back. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
wicked. That's
So
good, man.
and yeah, I did like I went from boxing, but it built me to be confident around men and this and that. Like by the time I hit the bender, it was just a bunch of lads ripping in.
Yeah,
Were we making good choices? Fuck no. But you have to go through it, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And there was probably a time there where I was destroyed. You know, I had
Mm-hmm.
no money. I didn't have much going for myself. I was, my athletic ability was absolutely zip. And, but amongst that, I'd met some really cool people and a really good friend of mine, me and him, we traveled around Europe, also partied hard.
Wicked. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd got into a funny relationship and moved to the UK with a bird. Like, what the fuck?
Wow.
And mate, talk about tripping. Like, I got to the UK, I lived in the East End of London. And
Really?
yeah, man, yeah.
How old are you at this point?
19, 18, 18.
So
No,
where'd you meet this
19,
bird?
19.
Did you meet her in Australia, or
Met,
did you meet her
met her
while
in
you went
Australia.
overseas?
Yeah,
Oh
so it was
wow.
me,
Okay.
a mate of mine, and the bird. We went traveling around Europe. And then
Yeah.
he went to Canada. I went to the UK with her, and it was a shithole. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, "What am I doing here? I've got to get back to Australia, man. This is wild." And then yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, that was so 17 or 18 to 21, 17 to no, fuck no, I'm lying. 18,
Yeah.
halfway through my 20s was just sex, drugs, and rock and roll,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was hectic. But I'm
And
glad I did it all. I'm glad I did it all because I won't go back to it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like you got to get that out of your system. And
Yeah.
people are so hard on themselves for mistakes, like or
Mm.
being like, mate, go through it, acknowledge that you do it, own your fuck
Yeah.
ups. If you don't want to do it, get yourself out of that situation. You know what I mean? But if you're going to stay there,
100%.
don't complain about it. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
you complaining about something that you just fucking
Sitting
shit
in.
stuff to a wall, mate. You know?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to change, change.
Uh,
Fuck me, you know.
um. What did you do for work? Like, when did you leave school? Did you get kicked out of school? Like, and what did you do for work
Mate,
through
it's
that
so
period, mate?
it's so funny because like my timeline, everything. I'm such an all in or all out sort of person.
Yeah.
So like some of these things that I talk about are in like 3 or 6 month, 12-month thingos. It just like pop, 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 pop. So
Yeah.
I left
Yeah.
school in year 11. I finished school in year 11, but I got like a scholarship to go to university in year 12 to do my year 12 at uni to do a bridging course.
Okay.
I was,
Yeah.
I was there for I was there for 3 months. I was 18 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It was shit. Uni's not for me.
Yep.
I was actually on my way to a rave, and my mate said, "Oh, I'm going traveling around Europe next year. Do you want to come?" I rang up uni. Yeah, this is not for me, eh? 2 days later, I went and got a job as a pebble creator, where you're on the trowel, arseholes
Yeah.
hanging out
Yeah.
every day, sweat, blood, and tears, questioning your existence. Done it.
Nice.
At the bottom of a
Nice.
pool, scraping shit. But did that, saved my money, went to
Cool.
Europe. So yeah,
Yeah.
from 18, yeah, from yeah 18, 2 months after turning 18, I was pebble creating until 2 or 3 months into being 19, and then that's when I
Mm-hmm.
went over to Europe and chased the European summer. But yeah, I was
How
yeah
long?
university pebble creating.
How long were you over there with this bird once you moved there?
Well, I travelled around Europe for 6 weeks, and then I was only in the UK for about 6 or 7 weeks as well. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Okay.
Yeah, I was so done. Yeah, yeah. And like, I was living there illegally as well. I was
Yeah.
living there illegally, so I was just like, I remember I was like, I'm not going to be able to get a job with no visa unless it's an Australian company. So I rang up this cafe, which it was a cafe of a morning, bar of a night. And I rang them up and said, oh, look, my visa's still getting played around a little bit, like, help a fellow Aussie out. They go, yeah, come and work for us. And I just signed it up to my girlfriend's at the time's bank account, said it was mine.
Yeah.
So I was getting them checks. I was still able to like live day to day. And then when I left, I didn't like, yeah, it was sick, man. Like I look back at that time and it was just, I'd just done everything on a wing, you know what I mean? Like, or a whim, however you say it.
Yeah.
And I've lost touch with that a lot. I've lost touch with just give it a crack and have it and give it a whim and see what happens. You know what I mean? I'm such a process-driven procedure dude now, and I do my own head in. I'm actually like my hairline's receding because of it. Look at it. Look at that. Fucking going bald, mate.
What would you put that down to, mate? Why the difference?
I'm a little fucked in the head. I'm joking. I'm running a business, and having since I've got with my partner now, Courtney. She's actually taught me a lot of the things that make her great, and the way that she articulates things, and like she does things so easily when when it comes to planning and putting things together and procedures, and she does it really easy, and she's able to get a whole lot of work done in a short amount of time. She knows what she's doing. She doesn't multitask too much, but multitasking to her is like do one thing, do the next thing. Like she gets it done so quick, and just to see her, like how hard she works and all those bits and pieces. Like I try to be like her, and I just can't do it as good as her, so I just do my own head in about it,
You're good, mate. Okay, so you're over there, and then what was next after
that? In the UK?
Yeah. When did you come back? What'd you do?
So I come back. I wasn't back in Australia for too much longer. I was back living with my mum, where I was just like, this is probably not where I want to stay for long term. You know what I mean? So I rang up a friend of mine. I knew that he was over in Perth, and he was making good money. And I decided that I wanted to go live in the Netherlands. So I thought, I'll go to Perth. He told me go get your rigging tickets, and fake it till you make it on your resume. And so I went and got my rigging tickets, which finished off 2018. Moved over here in 2019 around May, and I pretty much I was in my backyard on a Sunday, and I rang a couple of recruitment agencies that he had told me about, and said that I was living in Perth. I was still in New South Wales in my backyard. Said, I'm living in Perth. I'm just looking to. I've been working in the city doing FIFO for a while. Doing rigging for a while. Not really. Yeah. And I said, I'd love to go into the FIFO industry. Yeah. So they said, yep, come in on Thursday. So I got on a flight Monday. Was in a hostel for Tuesday, Wednesday when I had me meetings, and I moved over in the beginning of June, which is the worst time for anyone to start a job in fly in, fly out, because it's the financial year. So they weren't taking on any workers. So I had no work for like 4 weeks, and I had $400.
Right.
So the math didn't do me too much.
That doesn't go far over here.
It doesn't go far. No. So it doesn't go anywhere. So I asked the hostel at the time if I could make beds, so if I could sleep there, and they said yeah. And I was just sweeping floors and stuff. And that was only for about a week and a half, and I'd also walk into Coles with no money, and then walk out with a loaf of bread and a Coles chicken to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So
nice.
It's just what I had to do to get by. I'm not a bad person. I wouldn't do it from the local chicken bloke, but I think Coles is could do with a few less chickens. And then a friend of mine took me in. A friend of mine took me in, and he said, "Hey mate, I said, mate, I think I've got to move back to New South Wales, man. I've got no money because I've got a couch you could sleep on." this fella, right? He had a 2-bedroom apartment. He already had a mate living with him, and then there was 2 more of us, and he had an L-seated couch, and he let me sleep on one end and him sleep on the other. So he had
No
like
way.
3 of us, mate, a straight up G. And he's
What a
one of my
legend.
best mates. He's
Yeah.
one of my best mates today, and there needs to be people like that in this world. People are very particular and caught in their ways and like to just. He had 3 dudes living in his 2-bedroom apartment, and he couldn't even come out of a morning and drink coffee on his couch because we were sleeping there.
What a
Like,
legend. Hey,
mate,
looking
yeah,
after the
big.
boys.
And he would now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
he's just one of them guys, and I think we could take a lot from that guy because it really means something to be a good friend. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It
Yeah.
really means something to be a good friend, and it was just a
Nice.
crazy time. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in saying that,
So
like I do
did you
feel. Yeah, go.
keep going?
Well, no, I was just going to say, yeah, people would take the beginning of this conversation with, oh, the kid's been through a lot, but I've also had a lot of luck with the other people that have saved my ass as well. You know what I mean? It's been like the amount of shit. I feel like, you know, from up until like my early parts of my life where it was very much uncertainty and foster care and this and that, whatever else. But like this other part that I've been experiencing, it's great.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Work it. So did you end up going and rigging a FIFO, mate, or what happened?
Yeah. So I made it up there. Done 2 years up there. I was pin and steel. I got on some really cool jobs, met some great people. And yeah, I actually didn't mind the work, if I'm honest. I didn't mind the culture. It was another thing where I had to show up for every day. You know, people call it prison living. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. Like, you know, I actually didn't mind it. You know what I mean? I made great money. I could do whatever I wanted on my time off. I looked after my mum a lot. I paid my mum's rent. When we'd go out for nights on the beers, like I would just openly be able to pay for things for other people. And yeah, I think it's my love language. I really do like to give back. And I did like that time. And when my time was up, I knew that I needed to get out of there. I didn't stay. And like I was saying earlier, I did move over here to move to Netherlands and get a job in the mines and whatever else and save my money. And by the time that time came, it was actually peak COVID. So I decided to go, like, I'm not going to put a hindrance or whatever, put a low on that experience overseas with COVID. So I thought I'll just stay in Perth. And when I realized that rigging wasn't for me, I'd come back to Perth and I was drinking one too many beers and playing too much guitar in my living room. And I thought, boxing sounds good again. So I walked back into a boxing gym.
Wicked. So you weren't boxing that whole time? So
the whole partying time?
18, 19 to now, or?
Yeah, so from 18 to 21, I didn't train. Didn't do any boxing. Yeah, was rarely lifting weights and doing all those bits and pieces. So yeah.
And then so now you've it's COVID, and you're thinking about getting back into boxing again.
Yeah.
Work it. Where'd you go?
I went to Lacey's gym.
Okay.
I'd met Lacey back when I was like 15 at the National Golden Gloves in Queensland. One of the other head coaches at my gym actually trained Lacey growing up. Me and Lacey are from the same area, about 15 minutes away from each other, back on the Central Coast.
You're right.
So, on the Central Coast. And yeah, so I actually grew up hearing about Lacey a lot. And then when I met him at the Golden Gloves, and then years later, I was fighting underneath him, which was just wild. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So, yeah, crazy time.
And so, what was next from that? What happened?
Well, originally I started hitting up Kira Ruston, who's actually fighting for the Australian title tomorrow night. Short plug. We become really good friends, and I'd just pay for PTs because I had the money and wanted that one-on-one. I wasn't ready to. I didn't feel like I needed the need to be a part of a gym or a team.
Yeah.
And then one day he goes, man, I'm not taking your money anymore. Just come and train with us at the fighters class. And Lacey knew who I was as well, so I just rocked up one day. It's like, Jag, how are you? And yeah, we had a little bit of a chinwag, cut from a similar cloth. We spoke the same language, and this one particular day I actually decided to rock up. I didn't realize that Lacey had a premeditated session in his mind to just bring out the absolute viciousness in the fighters, and I was like, and they got the rundown at the beginning of the session, and I was just like, what the fuck have I got myself into?
Yeah.
This is going to be shit. And I remember just like leaving it that day, and it was the best wake up call of my life, because I went home, I meal prepped that day. I actually, settled in. It was very transformative. Like it just changed me. And when I started going to these classes, so it was about 2 or 3 weeks in, and my money started going a little bit low, and I went, I'm gonna have to get a job soon. I'm just gonna look up online. I might as well work in the gym space.
Yeah.
I was on Indeed, the jobs like search online sort of thing, and Lacey had a desk person for 4 hours a week. I rang him. I said, "Oi, I'll take the job." He's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I can talk to anyone." He's like, "All right, start tomorrow." So 4 hours a week.
Oh, wicked.
So and I was there, and I literally walked in. I was like, so I just sit here and chat to people. He's like, yeah, and you just answer emails and do this. And so I just come from Riggin and Pebble Cretin, right? And then he's paying me to sit there and just have yarns with people. I'm like, fuck, this is the best. I train afterwards. I trained beforehand.
Yeah.
And then a manager role come down at Osborne Park. I was like, so you want me to talk to people for longer? Come on. And that's actually where I met. That's actually where I met Courtney and Eddie.
Okay. Yeah.
The GCs, the top tier GCs. Anyways.
Top tier. Yeah.
If you know, you know. But yeah.
So were you managing the Osborne Park one?
Yeah, I ended up managing all 3 at one point.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was just right place, right time. Obviously, Lacey just trusted with what I was doing. Same thing. I was just doing everything on the whim. Like and then I said, "Oh, I want to get out on the floor now as well." He goes, "Go get your certs, your certifications, your certs 3 and 4." And then I went and done that as well. And then started taking clients and group fitness classes, and it was one of those things where like I loved feeling good. So I was always going to be doing the things that made me feel better. So I stopped drinking beers, started drinking water, and I started eating better food. I stopped eating Uber Eats. It was like this domino effect of good things that I wanted to do. I don't even reckon I drank alcohol for 12 months. And that, I didn't say, I'm going to stop drinking. It's just like, why would I need a drink?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was just it was just like this domino effect of me wanting to do good things, and it was for me. It wasn't even for anybody else. I just wanted to feel good, and being around a bunch of absolute weapons. Like I didn't even want to fight. Like Lacey goes, "You're gonna fight?" I was like, "No." And but you're around people who are like just different. Like I'd never been around that before. Like international representatives and trying out for the Olympics, and like I was very much bottom of the barrel when I got there. And when I decided that I wanted to fight, 3 years later I won the Australian title. So
wicked.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to Lacey and the team that he's got there. Like he's the only rule that he's got there is that like just respect and don't be a dick, like no one's ever walking around with no shirt off, and the vibes are great, the tunes are loud, people are really nice to each other. Like it's like everyone in there super soft spoken and gentle and give you time of day, but when you get through the ropes they're killers. Like they'll rip you in half if they needed to, you know what I mean? But as soon as they get out of the ropes or the bell goes, it's like, "Hey mate, how are you? Are you doing good session, keep your hands up more." Like, and I got to be a part of that journey, and it was so cool. Like that, oh man, what a time,
So how did you how was that journey to the Australian title? So that was a 3-year journey?
Fucked.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
What
boxing.
What are the biggest? What would you say is the top three things that you need for if any young guys are listening and they want to become the Australian title holder in amateur boxing? Um, what would you say to them? What would be the top three things they need to focus on and do?
Number one that comes to mind straight away is environment. Is number one. You have to have a good environment. It can be one of two things. A good environment of the people you decide to hang around outside of the gym, because are they going to advocate you going back to the gym tomorrow or to go get on the piss with them?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be an Australian champion, you've got to give it everything. You have to have a good environment. The second part of environment is that you've got to fuel your body, look after your body, rehydrate your body, your environment in here. You've got to look after this. You know what I mean? You've got to be doing good things for this, making sure that this headspace, this head environment is bang on for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's number one. Number one is environment. Number two, I feel like, is you got to have an understanding of what your goals are. You know what I mean? And if your goal is to become an Australian champion, you've got to be willing to lose daily. It's either losing in the gym, losing in a fight, losing a state title, losing the Aussie title. There's many losses coming your way. Number three is that what could number three be? I don't know. I just keep coming back to environment. Like my
Yeah.
partner, like people say to me, "Oh, it's a very big thing that you took on Courtney's son." I'm like, "Yeah, but she took on boxing. It is like Cooper's a legend. You know what I mean? It's my little dude.
Yeah.
Boxing is fucking not for the lighthearted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she'd meal prep for me. She'd do my weight cuts. She'd take me to and from fights. She supported my sponsorship campaigns. She expected when we weren't going to have money because I was going to be away fighting. I went to America for 3 weeks last year. She supported that. I was gallivanting all over the country without her. She supported that. You know what I mean? So that's probably another one. Don't get caught up in girls who treat you like shit or don't support your goals. It's probably one.
Yeah.
You know, have a woman that really supports what you're doing. It's probably number one, if I'm honest, because you know, if you're chasing goals, you know what I mean, and you like I'd come home not being able to chat or talk, or I'd sit inwards, and she would just let me do my thing. You know what I mean? And
it sounds like boxing's a team sport, right?
yeah,
Like it's quite individual. It's
yeah.
individual in the ring when the bell goes, but I guess you've got everyone around you in the lead up.
You're the only other person I've heard say that.
rehearsal.
You're the
Times
only
10.
other person I've heard say that. It's so true. Like, yeah, you've got a team of people all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah, and another thing as well, people think boxing's barbaric. It's actually quite beautiful and sometimes feminine. You know what I mean? Like, you get to touch with the finesse of what you're doing, and it's like Lacey is a technique Nazi, and he believes in good structure, good body mechanics, good thought patterns. And the way that he does things up there, it is so finesse. Like, go look at Charlie Senior, who just won the bronze medal. He's been at the Olympic Games in Paris. He's been with Lacey since he was like 10. That kid is a complete fighter. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Then you look at Kira, 2-time Australian champion, finesse. The guy's so beautiful to look at when he fights. But he could bowler anyone out in a minute, but he doesn't. Skills pay the bills. You know what I mean? And for people who don't know boxing and they're questioning what they should put their young bloke into or whatever else, combat sports as a whole, I think is very important, because kids should learn to lose every day. They should learn to lose every day. And there's nothing wrong with losing, because if you do not lose as a young bloke, by the time you get older, you're going to be a snowflake. You have to learn to lose. So, but boxing, you know, it's people just think hands up, blokes going for it. But teaches you respect for people who you don't know, teaches you respect for your gym, teaches you to, when you get a little bit too confident, you're going to be humbled. There's so many things that throwing a punch has nothing to do with that will teach you for the rest of your life. And it's very important.
I like the word finesse that you used, because it's definitely I see it as more of an art form.
Yeah.
If you're around the right environment, like what you said, and the right sort of boxing coaches, um, I think a lot of people can view it as quite a brutal sort of sport from the outside looking in, but the reality is that it's like what you said, it's quite beautiful, right?
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Um,
Yeah.
Look, you mentioned headspace before, and like what keeps you in the right headspace? What's some tips that you would say to someone, to be able to stay in the right headspace, or where did you think you got that from?
If you love something enough, you'll become addicted to being better at it.
Mm.
So like, I've had more
What?
losses than wins, you know what I mean? So like when
Yeah.
I would have a bad day, and a loss could be just have a shit day in the gym, you know what I mean? Like you could have a
Mm.
crack a week and then your last day's shit. That what kept me in the right headspace is coming home and going, like recognizing that I was good a few days ago. What went wrong? How can I become better about it? Uh, and not just going to an easy device of feeling sorry for yourself, excuse me, like um, going to Macca's on your way home,
Mm-hmm.
going out for a beer with the boys. There's nothing wrong with that, but
Mm-hmm.
sending it into a 2 day bender, like give yourself the opportunity to bounce back. And
Mm.
that's what I feel like is important. Like, don't like that. There's so many things that are right in front of us to distract us. So many things, including screens and social media. Like, I delete social media off my phone
Mm-hmm.
at 10 o'clock each day, and I don't re-download it till 5 o'clock each afternoon. People say that's quite monotonous, but I am so sick and tired of just being addicted to it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's just, yeah, don't let yourself like just do something easy, you know what I mean? Like, and easy can mean something different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you had a shit day at doing something and you're trying to keep a good headspace, rather than drowning it out with a social media scroll, go for a drive down to the beach and walk along the coast and actually think about what you've done.
Mm.
Or communicate with your partner, communicate with your coach, like, and ask and see how you can do things a little bit better rather than just hide behind what you know you should be doing. I think it's
Yeah.
super important to make sure you just don't go to something easy. You know what I mean? You actually got to sit and think about it and let your brain process, rather than just scroll,
Mm.
you know?
And obviously this is coming from experience, right? Like, how did
Yeah.
you get
Oh, for
through
sure.
the toughest times that you obviously would have seen in your sort of boxing career?
Yeah. It's going to come back down to my partner again. Like, she was very much a sounding board for things that I needed to express and get off my chest and stuff. And same as my
Yep.
foster parents. My foster parents always only been a call away. My foster brother and sister.
Awesome.
So yeah, like having people that you can have a sounding board with is super important. If you don't have that, I reckon it's
Mm.
closer than what you think. So just reach out and yeah. But the thing is that if people are a sounding board for you, you have to be a sounding board for them as well. If they ring you up and ready to let shit fly, you got to sit back, drop your shit, and do whatever you're doing, and be willing to listen to what they've got to say. And yeah, like just don't fix what isn't broken. You know what I mean? Like just because you have a bad day at something doesn't mean that you can't get up and do it all again. And
Yeah.
yeah, like there's a massive thing these days on morning routines and nighttime routines and those other things. And yeah, like I'm 26 years old and I've got a nighttime routine every night. And I
Yeah.
think it's important because sleep is the first domino that falls to a better performance the next day. No one, um, no one built Rome on a shit night's sleep. So you should be, yeah, prioritizing that to recharge and show up again the next day.
So, mate, you're a winner. You've in comparison to a lot of other people, you've been through hell and back, and you've sort of come out on top. What would you, if you reflect back to where you grew up in Sydney, and the type of environment, the type of mates and stuff that you had there? Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of them go down the path of gangs or drugs or all that sort of stuff. Um, what would you say to them to give them a bit of hope?
Um, all right. I'll use myself as an example, and I think I was saying this to you the other day. Since I was 12 years old, well, 8 years old, I've been high the whole time. So 8 to 17, I was boxing. It gave me a high. Then 18 to like 21 gave me a high from the bender. And then from, 21 and a half to 22 to 26, high again from boxing. So you just got to chase your high in the right fact. And the best endorphins come naturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So expressing yourself through sport definitely doesn't have to be boxing, but go pick something that you want to do and be good at, and be around those group of those guys or girls. There is no doubt that the people that took you to that place, that they're going to leave before you do. So you just got to hang in there and do the natural high. Because even me, even though I had those fun years on the bender and those bits and pieces, I was killing myself in the way of I wasn't going anywhere. And I done a full loop anyway. So you might as well just stick to the natural high. And whether if it's netball, soccer, jiu-jitsu, or whatever it is, a natural high is always going to come from moving around. With coming moving around and going to start a sport, you've got to be willing to be shit at something.
Yeah.
So if you rock up, similar to me, getting bashed on my first day, doesn't matter. Like, you can't be great at everything you start off with. There's some people out there that are. So yeah, you've got to be willing to be shit. Being shit, you will learn, and learning, you'll get the natural highs, and just stick to the natural high. It's very, very important. So for those who see groups and friend groups drifting off into that, just hold on to your shit. And if you want to test, go out and try and see how you feel the next day compared to how you feel the next day after a training session. One's going to put you in the ground quicker, and one's going to keep you above ground a little bit longer. So yeah, chase the natural highs.
Nice. And so you're still training at the moment?
Yeah, I think training's going to be a part of my life every day, and boxing's been on the back burner for the past couple of months. Just chasing. We've got family goals that we want to do. We've got family holidays and a lot of family time to catch up on, which we haven't been able to do since I've been with Courtney. I got with Courtney right into the thick of me boxing, and she took me we went right to the top together. With Cooper as well, and so yeah, we've got some really nice family things to start catching up on. We've got trips away, and me and Courtney owe that to ourselves. But same thing, right? Like, if I don't train, I have no middle ground in my life when it comes to my brain here. I'm here, like jumping on this podcast today. I'm fucking like, I'm pumped. I have a chin wag, but if I need to go train as well. Otherwise, I go straight to here. I'm not fun to be around. I'm very down. So I feel like it answers a lot of people's questions with, mental health and the stigma around not being able to talk about it. If you do not want to talk about your mental health, I promise you that if you just go and take an hour out of your day to go get a sweat on and fucking experience something hard, you will feel like a buzz at the end of it. Like, I love training so hard where I'm at the point where I'm on the floor and I'm just like, I'm fucked. And it's sort of like a come down, like the bender, same. You know what I mean? Just standing there and it's like, oh man, that was sick. But you go home and you want to hydrate and you want to, fill yourself up with good food. Rather than come down on the bender, you probably go buy another bag or something, which is what we don't want to do. So if you do not want to talk about your mental health, well, go express it in other ways and give yourself the opportunity. There's gyms everywhere. They are everywhere. There is more gyms than there are pubs, I reckon, in Perth at the moment. So, go knock on one's door, and if you do not like it, go to another one. If you do not like a gym, go to a footy club. There is an absolute boom. there's a boom in health and fitness at the moment, and it's only going to get bigger. And I think it's a very exciting time for anyone who decides they want to make a lifestyle change. Like people see on this phone call here that there's going to be somewhere on the line that within a few clicks are going to end up on your page or my page, and you can see what the help you're doing for people, the help I'm doing for people. It's at the click of fingers, and yeah, so I think it's very important to be moving.
And so you're currently still training people as well.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah,
trainer.
yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, personal
Whereabouts are you?
training. So 80% of my business is online now, doing personal training and nutrition programs for people who want to level up in life. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that space, because for the
Yeah.
busy individual who can't make a class or can't make a PT time, I give them a week's worth of training. I do all their food and that for them, and they can do it within their own time, depending on how their schedule is throughout the week.
Nice.
Like there is, that like it was sick, you know what I mean? And the other 20% is I train at Lacey's. I teach people a bit of boxing, do a bit of S&C, we do some mobility, and something that I feel like I'll do to the end of my day is group fitness. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's a festival sometimes. Tunes are up, cranking.
Tunes are up.
People
The energy's
just,
high.
yeah, people are just sweating bullets, and yeah, it's sick. Like, I do love being a personal trainer. I just think it's a really cool space, and yeah, it's another thing where just positive people and people who turn up want to be there, and yeah.
Would if anyone wants to touch base with you, mate, where's the best place to touch base with you? Instagram or?
Yeah, the Gram's probably the best place, like to do it, or Facebook. But yeah, if you look up Jaggar, you'll see me there. Jaggar, because I can see in the little top left hand corner here, Rob, you've got ER there. I thought, well, mates, and you're spelling my name wrong there in the top left.
I got
But
that
it's all right.
wrong. I did, yeah.
No, that's all right. But yeah. Just let's just see Instagram, and we actually used to do a run club every Sunday, which was a highlight of my life that we'll be bringing back soon, which is
Nice.
it's literally dedicated to the daily mover. There's people there. It was sick. We got to a point where mums, dads, and kids were rocking up. The mums would walk with the prams. The dads would run.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was a sick thing. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be bringing that back soon, and we'll do a different cafe every Sunday. We'll do a coffee review, and yeah, it was so sick, man. It was sick. Yeah, it was really cool. And some of the cafes got right into it. Like they would share the reviews and all those bits and pieces. So yeah, if you feel like you want to come down and have a chin wag, yeah, keep an eye out for the run club coming back, which would be sick.
Awesome. Well, that's it, mate. I think we'll leave it there. If there's one piece of advice you could give to anyone who's got their own struggle going on, or want to take that step to achieve, what would it be before we close up?
Go to the closest person, tell him you love him and you need help, and you just need 10 minutes out of the day to talk about what's going on. And yeah, I think just hold those close to you, and don't be ashamed to express your feelings. You know what I mean?
Cool. Awesome, Jaggar. It's been awesome having you on, mate, and
Yeah,
we'll touch base again soon.
absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me on, and hope I didn't blabber on too much, but I just
No,
want to get on here and have some fun, and yeah, so legend.
Good.
Thanks,
There's
mate.
it sounds like there's a lot more to explore in there, so we might touch base again.
Absolutely,
In
yeah,
the
for
next month
sure.
or so, and we'll
Yeah,
continue on. Cheers,
got to be
brother.
pumped to get back
Oh,
on, mate.
one more thing. Who would you
Tell
like to
me.
see on the podcast?
On here,
Yeah.
personal favorite, just because she's got a sick story as well, would be Courtney Devine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think she'd be good on here. I think she'd be great. Like, yeah, we should do a three-way podcast. I'd love to chat with her as well. But no, yeah, I would.
The OG.
Yeah, the OG GC. Yeah, mate. Even do a double up with Eddie. Her bloke would have an interesting story as well. 200 kickboxing fights. Like, the guy's an animal.
Oh, it's insane. His life story. Yeah, both of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, separate on their own and together, I think will be the way to
Yes.
go.
100%. Yeah, get them on.
Awesome, brother. Thank you again.
Thank you. Cheers, brother.